Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, a YouTuber that I respect very much, ReadyPlayerWill, just put up a video talking about what he does not like about the game. And it gave me a lot of food for thought. I thought about responding just with a comment, but there's too much to say, so I'll make my own video. There's a few reasons why I respect him so much. If my info is right, his only experience with mobile games is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and then now War of the Visions. But he seems to understand why mobile games are designed the way they are, the way that you should think about them and play them. Part of my mission statement, part of my goal with my channel is to sort of educate people on how to play these games, how to think about these games. Because a lot of people that come from just console games, they kind of have culture shock and they can't adjust to this new style. But ReadyPlayerWill is very level-headed. He has good kind of broad but also nuanced perspective about these games. But then also, as we see from this slide here, he is a very high-level player as well, and he spends a lot. So he hits that trifecta. So he sees a lot of the game that a lot of people don't see. So I think we can really trust what he has to say. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that he says, so we'll get into that with this video. Alright, but first slide here, he gives his credentials. Here he also said that, I have some notes here on my phone, but he hates using a unit for only a second, and he also hates using only the same 5 units. I completely agree here. Part of this is my fault. If I just played more, I could use more characters, but yeah, it does take a lot to level up a character in order to get it to be usable. And then also, I say this all the time, but all characters are good. And if you find the right place, and if you have the right team, and you go against the right opponent, you can get good use out of any unit. But in top-level PvP like here, there are fewer options to choose from. And then, as for my credentials, I am pretty knowledgeable about Arena, high-level Arena, not so much about guild battles, so I'll defer to him about those matters. Okay, next slide, content drought for Powercreep. He said that raids and then the brutal quests in particular have gotten easier, and I agree with that. This is kind of typical for all mobile games. It's kind of like early adopters, early adopters of new technology have the worst experience, but they get it first. We all think about the first raid where you kind of needed Lucia in order to progress through that. That was very difficult and not a fun experience, but raids have gotten easier. There are a lot of players now that can solo auto the top level content, which makes it a lot more digestible. He also talked about just solo characters being able to do the raids. That's a little unbalanced. That kind of makes it a bit of a pay to win there. I think if it maintains the balance where new players, they need to join multi-rooms in order to get clears of level 100, while the top players can, solo auto it with their own teams. I think that's good. That gives, kind of a lower bar to entry for newer players, gives a goal to aim for higher level players. Being able to clear raids with just one solo character, especially the brand new one, I don't think that's so good. And then the bottom there, Arena and Guild Wars are the only place where new characters and vision cards really shine. This is true. I've talked about how Powercreep for PvE content and then PvP content goes at different rates. And we're really seeing that play out now, where Powercreep goes much faster in PvP. Where you have folks, getting the new stuff, and then they design it so that the new stuff is the more powerful or the easier to use stuff, while PvE is kind of lagging behind. But I think that's the right design choice, because if you make it so that PvE also requires all of the brand new stuff in order to beat, that is too fast, I think, for Powercreep, and that's going to alienate new players. Not that new players should be able to beat the raids, level 100 raids and brutal quests immediately, but it shouldn't be as hard or as fast as PvP Powercreep. Okay, next slide. I might spend a lot of time here. Light-dark metas get stale. I disagree with this concept because light and dark are not exclusive to each other. Like, light characters cannot be beaten by only dark characters. You can use any element in order to beat light characters. I think people are thinking about it a little bit too simplistically, like water characters can only be beaten by lightning, and then, wind characters can only be beaten by ice. The way that I think about it, if I see water characters in PvP, I will consider any characters against them that are not fire. So instead of limiting my thoughts to one element in order to counter another element, I consider all elements except for just this one, so I still have lots of options. And then this is true for light and dark as well. I can take light and dark units against any element, and then I can use any element against light and dark. I don't see it as a binary at all. Maybe what is happening that is kind of shaping players' perception of this kind of counter system is that light and dark are both so strong in the first year of the game that it might seem like the only way to counter them is with that opposite element. But the way that I see it is that because War of the Visions is still a young game, by focusing the elements or the metas on light and dark, you ask your players to do less. You don't overburden them. Like if from the starting gate all of the elements were equally powerful, then you would have to try to work on counters for all of them. And that would be too much. That would be asking too much of players. And so in this first year and a half, by focusing on light and dark, you can have players just kind of focus on that and then compete at high levels in different modes of the game. Okay, next slide. Game balance is in stats. I think that's what that says, not theory. Majority of the cast are entirely Powercreep, non-EX units. I agree. When I look at teams to put together for PvP, I pretty much only consider EX units. Thankfully, I am a whale, so I have a kind of a big selection to choose from. But I can see how minnows or free-to-play users would feel more limited in their team building because they have fewer EX units to choose from. And then ReadyPlayerWill talks about new vision cards, which are element-specific. I've talked about this before, but he lists the vision cards here, and then he puts the unit that card is good for next to them, which is the right way to think about it. But I think people are drawing the wrong conclusions from these element-specific vision cards. Again, these are not really meant to be team vision cards. They're more unit vision cards. And so the way that I think about them is that, he says, these unit-specific vision cards are the ones that you get and then max in order to kind of unlock the full potential of a unit. And yes, that is an additional cost, so that sucks. But it also means that these element-specific vision cards are easier to skip. If you don't love the unit that the new vision card buffs, you can just ignore it, save yourself the materials there. So even though maybe you are spending more on a single character, there are fewer characters that you need to spend on, so maybe it balances out in the end. I haven't done the math. It also depends on how many characters you want to take to that max level with vision cards, but it's not all bad, I think. Lack of universal vision cards like the initial game rollout hurts. I don't know about this. Do we want another 50% attack party buff universal vision card, but has a different bestowed ability? How popular is that Final Fantasy XIV card? Or worse, what if they started releasing universal vision cards, but they had higher buffs, like a 60% party attack buff, or a 25 evade party buff? I don't think we want that, because that would be a pretty big jump in power creep. What these unit-specific vision cards are doing is that they're taking your favorite units to their max, and it's giving you kind of greater slot efficiency in a way, but you sacrifice kind of being able to buff your entire party. Again, this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while, but I just keep putting it off. But if you think about these unit-specific vision cards as just for a unit, you kind of give them all the buffs that they need. And so you can, you got your team of 3, you got your one guy with its specific vision card, gets everything it needs from that, and then you got 2 slots left over. And then you could do like, 2 characters of the same element so they can buff each other with vision cards or master abilities. Or you could do a party of like 3 characters of different elements. And so you might not be buffing every character with every party ability. But the party abilities or the bestowed abilities that they are getting might be good enough. And so like the older vision cards that are universal, they still have their advantage over the newer vision cards because they can buff anybody without restrictions. But maybe they buff people less overall than the unit-specific vision cards, so there could be balance there. And then also those older kind of like launch universal vision cards, those are the better investment for newer players. And like the vision card or the unit-specific vision cards are more for veteran players or for fans of a particular unit. But yeah, I don't feel restricted, and I don't think a lot of JP players feel restricted by these element-specific vision cards. In a way, they can even free up your team building, because, like I just said, you don't need to worry about party buffs across the entire team. You can have this all-in-one character vision card combo. And then in this slide, he hints at some concepts that are very, very important, which I think a lot of people are not focusing on enough. They're focusing too much on elements, but the tank healer 1-1-1 idea of team building, where, again, I'm going to defer to ReadyPlayerWill here, but maybe the best team comp, maybe especially for like a defense in the guild battle, is going to be an attacker tank healer, like a sustain build where you can last for a long time, defend against multiple opponents, take away the opponent's skill uses and also AP. And what he's doing here is that he is emphasizing the importance of unit roles or like unit archetypes. And he's saying that how every element does not have tanks and healers in order to create what is maybe this ideal guild battle defense team. And then what that is that the game, even though it's over a year old now, it's still a young game. Every element has not been fleshed out in order to create that 1-1-1 team build for guild battles. And so that's where maybe he and other players are kind of feeling a restriction on their team building. Like Light is still one of the most balanced elements in the game because it does have a variety of tanks and also kind of attackers to choose from. I do not see a ton of this team comp in Arena. I more often see like tank, attacker, attacker, not so many healers. But also maybe Yuna, maybe she just kind of skewed things because she's not just a healer, she's kind of a do-everything sort of unit. She's kind of so broken and unbalanced that she really did define the meta for a while. And maybe that's where some of the frustration is coming in, because she's just too strong of a unit. Yuna and then Helena, they are so strong that they define the meta for months. And same thing happened in JP. A lot of JP players were getting pretty tired of facing those units. But recently in JP, I've been seeing they're kind of aiming more for balance. Like Cloud, I don't see him as a meta-defining unit. He's very strong, and a lot of people are using him, but he's very beatable, I would say. He's not on the same level as Yuna and Helena. And then also, even like cost 100 units that are coming out, they're a little disappointing compared to Yuna and Helena. They're not as strong, but they are more balanced. And so I see that as the developers trying to aim for more balance, aim for more variety in high-level PvP. And that's what I saw in my last run through Arena. Didn't see a ton of Yuna, didn't see a ton of Helena. I saw a good amount of Cloud, but he was a bonus unit getting the bonus. But yeah, I'm seeing more variety and balance in top-level Arena, at least in JP. Don't know what's going to happen with Jaden. We'll see what happens there. So I see like Yuna and Helena as like rough patches of the game when things got kind of stale, and I see things getting better in JP, but at the same time I know it's kind of a big ask to ask people like, just keep grinding, for another year or something. Things will get better in the future. That might not be enough motivation to keep people to play there. Okay, next slide. I just talked about the healer tank stuff for different elements. After that, talks about the arena bonus units change, the variety, but time spent in arena is limited. This is all true. Arena is very dynamic because it does, shuffle up who is the bonus unit. But time spent, he means like battle time spent. Arena is more kind of like a simulation game, where you're not, spending time in battle, choosing individual actions and stuff. So that is its own experience, but if you wanted a very dynamic game mode where you are controlling the action, then it's not going to be in Arena or Guild Battle. And then he talks about how PvP rewards aren't worth it. This is true, but they kind of can't be, because if we imagine, like, if they did make PvP rewards like really strong or like unique, then the game would become pay to win. Like, imagine if you unlock the master, the master trophy for Guild Battle, and then it gives you like a top level unit that can beat everything. Then the game would become legitimately pay to win, and that would be horrible for the reputation of the game and drive people away. Free-to-play users would be like, screw that, I can never unlock everything, I can never be at the top of the game. And so you have like non-unique rewards like Vision Ore or medals or whatever, and then unique stuff that doesn't affect gameplay at all, like the trophies. And that's kind of the only way that PvP can be, if you want to make a game that's kind of friendly to all spending types of players. And then getting back to the numbers idea, I agree that they matter most in PvP. When I build for PvP, I do feel limited to EX units. But within feeling limited to EX units, I don't feel limited by elements, and I also don't feel limited by new units versus old units. In my last arena run, I used old units like Rain, Engelbert, and Christmas Mashidi, and then again, instead of using Rain only against ice units, I used them against everybody except for water units. Alright, I'm jumping around here, but this last point, spend versus reward, is no longer satisfactory. This is also a thing that most mobile games run into. People, they hit plateaus of spending and also account strength, and at a certain point it's just not worth it to spend anymore because you're getting less bang for your buck because your account is too strong. And so at that point it's totally fine to sort of scale back the spending, scale back the play, and then with the unit-specific vision cards that are coming out, you can just wait for the vision card that you're particularly excited about, because maybe you're very excited about that unit as well. The only people that should be pulling for all of the new stuff all of the time are like crazy YouTubers that are trying to keep the interest of their audience. And then last is that top point, game is getting stale without content. This is also a common thing for mobile games. After a while, mobile games hit a groove, and then they have all of the game modes that they're going to have. And at a certain point, users have to accept that this is it, or the developers have to develop new difficulty levels for the old stuff. They might make a super raid someday, or they might make super Esper quests, or they might make something that will take a ton of farming to get ready for. Selection quests are kind of like a preview of that. They're focused on just the MR and lower rarity units. But I am sure that there will come a day when you need a full mono-element party of level 120 units in order to beat that content. But most people's accounts aren't there, so it's not coming. And as far as War of the Visions goes, the PvP side is very developed. There's lots of game modes. There is auto battle, there is manual play, There are modes with lots of freedom as far as team building and then also opponent selection. But then other modes that are very limited and almost kind of random, more like class matches. And so there's a lot of variety within PvP. Within PvE, not as much variety. I expect that they will release more of that as people's accounts get stronger. And then also co-op is very, very underdeveloped in War of the Visions. Hopefully that's coming down the pipeline as well. Hopefully we get like co-op guild battles where you can go with guild mates in order to fight a strong boss, which maybe takes coordination of like team members and who's doing what in what order, and then you gotta like talk in real time about strategy. I don't know what you call it, like a dungeon run in World of Warcraft or something. Hopefully that kind of a game mode comes to War of the Visions. Alright, so that's my response to ReadyPlayerWill's video. I went on a lot of tangents. I didn't directly address everything that he said. But yeah, managing your own motivation to play a game long-term over the life of the game is one of the most challenging things about the game. It's got nothing to do with team building or beating high difficulty content. And so like videos like this are very important. We all got to make a judgment call about when a game is worth playing and when it is worth putting aside. Okay, I'm sure I have a lot more to say, but that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.